Happy trails to you. It's great to say hello and to share with you the joy I've come to know.
The Lord has been telling me that a lot of people have been in the wilderness and they're trying to come out, but they don't know what to do. It seems like their confession is not working. It seems like the things that used to work are not. Ours and I went through that, and we're coming out of ours, but there comes a time when you have to go deeper. It seems like what you were doing before is not working. And I see somebody shaking your head because, and if you haven't been there yet, you will be there. And I said, Lord, I want to help the people because it was severe this time for ours, and I was really severe. One of the most severe, maybe probably the most severe test we've ever been through the last few months. And we're coming out, and I said, I would like to know in your word, you know, how these people responded in the wilderness. And boy, I mean, every week he says, this is the next one. I want you to study, digest in your heart, and show the people how that these Bible characters came out of the wilderness experience, what they did in the wilderness when everything was so tough, and tell the people how they can come out. And so, you know, we studied Gideon, these 300 men, and with just the Midianites were just overwhelming odds, thousands that were coming against them. And the Lord showed Gideon what to do, how to get that. We did that last time. We studied Jehoshaphat, King Jehoshaphat, when all the enemy came against him that surrounded Jerusalem. And we studied what Jehoshaphat did for victory and to bring them through that terrible experience. And now David here was anointed king as a teenager. And see, when God promotes you, I mean, you think, boy, I got it made now. I was anointed king as a teenager. No, see, the greater responsibility, new level, new devil. And I'm not saying that to discourage you, but with 41 years of ministry, I know that's true. That you have to expect that, and all the word that you can get into you before the wilderness experience, all the closeness to Jesus, closeness to God that you can get before you go in the wilderness, the better off you're going to be, and the quicker you can come out of it. Because in the wilderness, and I went through that the last few months, and ours did too, it seems like it takes everything out of you that you had in you. You thought, well, I can always just, you know, just speak this word, it'll work right away, and this trial will be over. No, as Oral Roberts said, you know, before he went home to be with the Lord, he said in the last days now, the trials are going to be more severe, the sickness more severe, the experience you go through is going to be more severe than ever before because Satan knows his time is short and he's pulling out all the guns. And see, his idea is to get us focused on what he's doing and what he's saying and forget about this. And that's how he gets the victory. So we've got to keep him in the word faith realm, because if he gets us over in the physical realm, he can defeat us every time. And I mean, when them terrible symptoms come in your body, you want to, oh, Lord. I mean, you want to focus on that and forget about the word or praise. But even though it's hard, you keep on standing in the word, you keep on standing and thanking the Lord, praising the Lord. Even if you feel like you're going to die, or you just so this confusion tries to come to fear, you keep on praising the Lord, worshiping, thanking Him, staying focused on the spiritual things instead of the physical, material things. My finances, how are we going to pay these bills? On my body, I'm going to have to call the emergency rescue squad. What am I going to do? I mean, it just comes really fast. And so I wanted to go through here and just look. David here was anointed king. And Saul had turned from a man who prophesied to a killer. I mean, these people can change. I mean, I've been so shocked in my ministry. I mean, I've had people come against me, and I know you have too, that you thought it would never happen. But it does happen. And Saul was one of them. He went from bragging on David and, having him as an armor bearer, the sweet psalmist of Israel, coming and to play the harp. He tried to kill him a number of times. He tried to pin him against the wall with his javelin. Saul got so wicked he went and killed all the priests. Every one of the priests he killed because the priest gave David Goliath's sword. When David went into the wilderness, he said, I don't even have my sword. I'm running for Saul. He's trying to kill me. He's jealous of me. And I don't even have a sword. So he went. He knew that the priest, where the village was, he knew that the priest would help him. And so we go to the church. We go to church for help. Pastor, I need help. He went to the priest. And the priest told him, the only sword that I have here is Goliath's sword. David said, that's the best one of all. David, I mean, he had already killed Goliath. He'd killed a lion, a bear, and a giant. There is a progression to this. I don't think the Lord allows the real severe trials until you've made some progression in your spiritual life. And so David was protecting the flock, and the lion started to try to kill his sheep. The bear did. He killed both of them. And then he went to the camp where the Israelites were facing the Philistines, and everybody was afraid of Goliath except this teenager. And he said, well, I mean, he's defying the armies of the living God. Y'all just sitting here, you big strong men, and you're just cowering and afraid of his brother. His brother was so jealous of him. I mean, Eliab, it's there in 1 Samuel 16:6. And in fact, Samuel thought that when God told him to go and anoint the next king of Israel, Samuel thought Eliab would be the one. But I want to show you here before, when Samuel came to where David lived, and Jesse and all the family. Notice what he says in 16:1 to Samuel, how long will you mourn for Saul, seeing I have rejected him from reigning over Israel? Saul would not listen to God. And see, if we don't listen to God, then he has to reject us. If we refuse to listen to do what God, and he says, I'm going to get me a king after my own heart. So he said, fill your horn with oil. I'll send you to Jesse the Bethlehemite. That's in Bethlehem. We were there. And I provide a king for me among his sons. And Samuel said, if I go, Saul, kill me. Because that's how Saul had become vicious. Call Jesse to sacrifice. I will show you what to do, and you shall anoint unto me him whom I name. And Samuel said, well, if I go to Bethlehem, the elders of the town will, they will wonder why I'm there. And they'll say, do you come peacefully? And verse 5, he said, peacefully, I am come to sacrifice unto the Lord. That's what he told them, because so they wouldn't be asking all these words. Sanctify yourselves, come with me to the sacrifice. Now, that's what the Lord is telling us. Come to the sacrifice. That could be a sermon in itself. God is saying, come to the sacrifice. Come to the cross. Come to my son Jesus, because there is no victory outside of the cross. There's no victory outside of my son. There's no victory outside of my word. Because my son is the only one that overpowered the flesh and the devil. My son is the only one that lived the perfect life. He's the only one that can bring you from where you are to where you need to go. It's got to be the cross. And so the invitation comes, come to the sacrifice. Come to the cross. Come to the blood. Because you can defeat Satan every time. So, come to the sacrifice, be saved. Come to Jesus. And so here in verse 6, it came to pass when they were come, that's Jesse and his sons, Samuel looked on Eliab and said, surely the Lord has anointed before him. But the Lord said to Samuel, look not on his countenance or on the height of his stature, because I have refused him. Now apparently God looked at this man. And when he looks at us, I don't want to have anything in there that he was going to refuse me. You know, pride, arrogance. You know, I don't want him to refuse me. I want to do what he's called me to do. And notice, for the Lord sees not as man sees, for man looks on the outward appearance, but the Lord looks on the heart. So he said, is this all the sons you got? And he said, well, I got my little teenage son, he's keeping the sheep out in the wilderness like he was so insignificant. We didn't even bring him in. We didn't even invite him to the sacrifice. Oh, don't do that. I don't care how young your kids are or you think insignificant. He might be the next one that God's going to use. So Samuel said, send and fetch him, for I will not sit down till he comes. And verse 12, he brought him in, and he was ruddy, that means red-haired, and had a beautiful countenance. The Hebrew says with beautiful eyes, and goodly to look at. He was handsome, this little fellow was. And the Lord said, arise, anoint him, for this is the one. Samuel took the horn of oil and anointed him in the midst of his brethren. And notice here, the Spirit of the Lord departed from Saul, and it came upon David, because Saul had rejected God. But notice, David was anointed king, and Saul got jealous, and he started hating David, because David started going out to battle after he killed Goliath with Saul, and he would come back in victorious, and the women started chanting, Saul has killed his thousands, but David his 10,000s. And see, if there's something wrong in somebody's character, then they really get mad at you. They get jealous. He's exalted. They're exalting him over me. I don't like that. You know, I don't care. If God would use a child in this congregation to preach and prophesy, man, I would be so happy. I just love to see how God uses people. And we can't be jealous. That's one of the worst things that really hinders the move of the Spirit, when we're jealous of each other. We must never be jealous. We must pray for each other, love each other, try and give each other opportunities for advancement. It's really important that we don't have that in our hearts, because God will refuse us promotions if we're like that. You know, He'll say, well, I wanted to use you, I wanted to promote you, but you got to get that out of your heart first. And this ruined Saul. It just ruined him. He was never anything. He ended up going to a witch, a fortune teller, to try and get some information from God. When you do that and you cut yourself off from God because the way you think and the way you treat others and what's really in your heart, God will have to go to somebody else that's humble and use them. So Saul got so depressed that at first Saul said, find me somebody that can play on the harp. And that's in chapter 16. Let's see, it's verse 23. Notice here at first, in verse 21, when he came in, verse 21, David came to Saul and stood before him, and he loved him greatly, and he became his armor bearer. Satan at first, Saul at first loved David. But then, like I said, he really got jealous in these battles now, when David started winning more than, doing more victory than he did. But anyways, David played on his harp. He would come before Saul and play on his harp. Let's see, that's in chapter 18, 6, chapter 18, 6 through 13. Begin at verse 5. David went out wheresoever Saul sent him. Notice, behaved himself wisely. And Saul set him over the men of war. That's a special group. He was accepted in the sight of all the people and in the sight of Saul's servant. And it came to pass, when David was returned from the slaughter of the Philistines, that the women came out singing and dancing to meet King Saul with tabrets and joy, instruments of music. The women answered one another and said, Saul has slain his thousands, and David his 10,000s. And notice verse 9, Saul eyed David from that day forward. And it came to pass that the evil spirit from God came upon Saul. He prophesied in the midst of the house. Now, I never noticed this before. Prophecy can be of the devil. And this was a spirit that came on Saul, and he prophesied. Notice, on the morrow, when Saul was after David now to kill him, verse 10, the evil spirit from God came upon Saul, and he prophesied in the midst of the house. Now the note here, however, he wasn't prophesying by the Spirit of God now, but rather by the power of demon spirits. Because when Saul first got saved and his heart got right, he did prophesy. There's a scripture for that. But now he's sold after the devil through this jealousy, and see how the evil spirit can come in and mess up prophecy because the heart is not right. So we've got to make sure when we preach, when we prophesy, that our heart is pure, because Satan can intervene and get in there and cause us to say things and do things that's not of God. So he prophesied in the midst of the house. David played with his hand as at other times, and there was a javelin in Saul's hand. Saul cast the javelin, for he said, I will smite David into the wall. And David avoided out of his presence twice. And Saul was afraid of David. Notice people can be jealous of us, but also afraid because we're anointed. Because the Lord was with him, and he was departed from Saul. So, but notice verse 14. David behaved himself wisely in all his ways, and the Lord was with him. So see, when we're going through these trials in the wilderness and somebody's after us trying to destroy us, destroy our ministry, and I've been there different times. If we behave ourselves wisely with excellence, just be an excellent person. You know, in your manners, in your conduct, in the way you treat other people, just be excellent. In your words, be gracious, forgiving, and God will continue to use you. And the things that ours and I've been through in the ministry, it looked like we could really be in a bad wilderness. But as we behaved ourselves wisely, it wasn't perfect, I know. And sometimes I wish I hadn't said anything to some of these people. But anyway, if we behave ourselves wisely, then God will come out of it faster, and God will promote us to the next step. So David behaved himself wisely in all his ways. Daniel, his enemies, said he's a person of excellence. Even though they were trying to kill him, you know, because he wasn't supposed to pray to anybody except, you know, the king. But he went 3 times a day and prayed anyway. And they said they couldn't find any fault with him. He's excellent in all of his ways. That's the way I'm going to be. That's the way God wants you to be. Excellent in all your ways. Even though you're going through wilderness and all this stuff, He wants us to still be excellent. And take the sword of the Spirit with you. In 1 Samuel 21, when Saul was after David to kill him now, 1 Samuel 21, 8 through 9, it says, And David said unto Amalek, And is there not here under your hand a spear or sword? That was a priest. For I have neither brought my sword nor my weapons with me, because the king's business required haste. In other words, Saul was out to kill him. And the priest said, The sword of Goliath the Philistine, which you slew in the valley of Elah, behold, it is here wrapped in a cloth behind the ephod. That was what the priest wore. For if you will take that, take it, for there is none other save that here. And David said, There is none other like it. Give it to me. Okay. So this, he took the sword. Ephesians 6:16 says, Take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the Word of God. And the next point I want to make here, as I went through here making this outline, is refuse to go over to the enemy's camp. There's the temptation to go to the enemy's camp. Well, nothing I'm doing is working right anymore. It seems like God has left me. So I think I'll just quit church, and I'll just go home and feel sorry for myself. Preacher didn't call. Nobody in the church called. I pray that won't ever happen. But anyway, there's a big temptation to go to the enemy's camp. And 1 chapter 21, verse 10. Notice, David arose and fled that day for fear of Saul, and went to Achish, the king of Gath. I mean, weren't it these Philistines? The note, David was going over to the enemies of God. So much of the wrongdoing that comes by the child of God is caused by fear. So notice David said that he fled that day for fear of Saul. The great king David, who was anointed and who slew Goliath, now he was letting fear come in. And you know what we've got to do? We've got to resist fear. Because I tell you, fear will come in if we don't say, fear, I resist you in the name of Jesus. You're not coming on me. Because it easily comes, I tell you that. And we must resist it. And not go to the enemy's camp. Well, man, you know, I just can't. I don't seem like the word's working. And I just guess I'll just check the horoscope column. Or I'll call the witch on the psychic hotline. I'll call somebody that... And that's what Saul did. You know, Saul did when God left him. He went to the witch at Endor. We can't do that. Don't check the horoscope column. Don't go to somebody that's a questionable character.
Come on.
Because they'll suck you right in again.
That's right.
You know, they're right there to suck you in.
Come on.
You can't go there. No. And so, and verse 12, David laid up these words in his heart and was sore afraid of Achish, the king of Gath. Okay, notice this. I want to follow my outline here because I was careful to try and get all this out of 1 Samuel. Let's see. I want to go here and look. Don't let the devil make a fool of you. And he will. I mean, he will. When you're going through trial and troubles and it seems like all hell's broken loose, the devil wants to make a fool of you. And that's what he did to David. Look at this. David, he was sore afraid of Achish, the king of Gath. Chapter 21, verse 13. He changed his behavior before them, feigned himself mad in their hands, scrabbled on the doors of the gate, and let his spittle fall down upon his beard. David was making it like he was a madman. He lost his mind. Well, the enemies of the Lord just love that. Oh, yeah, I really got you in a bad predicament. I got you acting crazy again. You're acting worse than what you did before you got saved. I've got you exactly where I want you. And notice, Achish, this king, the king of Gath, verse 14, then said Achish to his servants, Lo, you see the man is mad. Why have you brought him to me? Have I need of madmen that you brought this fellow to play the mad man in my presence? Shall this fellow come into my house? The note here, evidently David's ploy worked with the Philistines, thinking he was crazy, thereby letting him go his way. But he should have never been there to begin with. Right. See, when you get in enemy's camp and that terrible anointing comes on you, the devil, the anointing of the devil is to make you lose your faith and to lose your mind and to kill your suicide. That's what the devil said. There's no hope. You might as well kill yourself. You've lost it. You thought you could be a Christian. You thought you were a king. You thought you were a king and a priest. Did Jesus tell you that? You're just a big mess, is all you are. Just a big mess. You might as well blow your brains out and get it over with. That's the way the devil talks in these trials, in these wilderness. Don't listen to him. Refuse to go to the enemy's camp. Build up your spirit in the Word and prayer before the wilderness experience comes. Because when you go through these, it's going to take everything you stored up to get you through it, I tell you that. And sometimes it's so shocking when you go through it. You say, well, I don't feel like getting in the Word. I'm wiped out. I'm drained. So you've got to have an inner reserve. You've got to have a resource in there that'll still keep speaking to your heart. It's got to be something way down here that you stored up when things were going good. Because if you don't store it up when things are going good, when all hell breaks loose, it'll be hard to win. And I know something else here. And I never saw this before in my life, in order to slow the clock down because I got a lot. 1 Samuel 23, 13. 1 Samuel 23, 13. Then David, this is when David escaped to the wilderness, trying to keep Saul from killing him, and these men that was with Saul. Then David and his men, which were about 600, notice he had 600 men, arose and departed out of Keilah and went wherever they could go, to escape Saul and his men. And it was told Saul that David was escaped from Keilah, and he forbore to go forth. In other words, Saul ceased to pursue David. And David abode in the wilderness in strongholds. I never saw that before, that in the wilderness experience, God has strongholds for us.
Nothing can separate. Even if I ran away, your love never fails. I know I still make mistakes, but you have no mercies for me every day, and your love never fails. You stay the same through the ages. Your love never changes. There might be pain in the night, but joy comes in the morning. And when the oceans rage, I don't have to be afraid, because I know that you love me. Your love never fails. The chasm is far too wide. I never thought I'd reach the other side, but your love never fails. The wind's strong and water's deep. I'm not alone in these open seas. Your love never fails. 'Cause you stay the same through the ages. Your love never changes. There might be pain in the night, but joy comes in the morning. And when the oceans rage, I don't have to be afraid, because I know that you love me.